Sitting opposite his son, Lord Dmitri could not hide the worry in his eyes. His voice lowered as he gently asked Roman if he was injured in the recent incident. Although he appeared stern, the question carried a father's deep concern. Roman calmly replied that he was fine, but his father's next question revealed clear unease. "What were you thinking to go to such a dangerous place?" As if he could not understand the heir's actions beyond the bounds of reason. With a serious look, Roman's father emphasized that even powerful warriors like the Aura Knight are powerless against nature's fury. He warned that Roman was very lucky to have come through the accident unharmed. His voice grew harsh, and his hand slammed down on the table. The worry erupted into anger, not because Roman was the heir, but because of a father's love. He had almost lost his son due to a reckless decision. Then he lowered his voice, eyes full of determination. Even though it was not Roman who was in danger, he could not accept sacrificing another life just to save someone else. He did not want to lose 2 lives because of an emotional decision. Roman did not respond emotionally, but with reason. He declared that what he did was fulfilling his duty, nothing more, nothing less. In his eyes, it was an unavoidable responsibility, even if others saw it as risky. The call "Roman" rang out in suppressed frustration. The father could not believe his son was so calm when talking about nearly dying, as if it were just the right thing to do on an ordinary day. Unfazed, Roman continued. If he could go back to that moment, he would act the same way. The accident was real, and at that time, bearing the Dmitri name, he acted according to his conscience and belief. The words echoed in the silent space like an unshakable affirmation. "I made the decision I believed was right." Meanwhile, the father sighed, advising Roman to stop, because he never wanted his son to toil in that place. Recalling the image of hardworking blacksmiths by the forge, he softened his tone. If Roman wanted to work in the smithy, he would not stop him. But the mine was different, cruel, and dangerous. Yet Roman calmly replied, only by going down to the mine could he truly understand where the land of Dmitri was built from and for whom. Although blacksmithing brought fame to Dmitri, it was the iron mines that sustained most of the inhabitants. This land was built not only by the skill of blacksmiths, but also by the sweat and blood of miners working day and night in the darkness. Roman Dmitri understood this well. As the heir of the family, instead of choosing the glorious path at the forge, he decided to throw himself into the iron mine, where the harshest reality of Dmitri land was reflected. Faced with his son's unexpected determination, Count Dmitri frowned slightly and hesitated briefly. But with a single concise word, "Very well," he accepted the decision, though he could not hide his worried gaze. After hearing the approval, Roman did not delay. He frankly presented what he had learned from the experience, that the workers in the mine were enduring extremely poor working conditions that outsiders could hardly imagine. He continued sincerely. Roman acknowledged that his father always prioritized miners' safety, a fact he deeply respected. But precisely because of this, he realized kindness alone was not enough to protect the lives of laborers. Roman affirmed a harsh truth: mine collapses are unpredictable. No matter how careful one is, an accident like today's can happen anytime, and with just one mistake, there would be no chance for correction. Hearing this, Count Dmitri furrowed his brow. He knew his son was right. He had thought about it before, but the truth was still hard to accept. No preparation is enough to prevent disaster, he admitted heavily. Roman did not hesitate and immediately proposed a solution: to utilize the most modern invention of this era, magic. With the support of magic, protecting the iron mines from collapse would no longer be impossible. However, to implement this plan, a high-level magical artifact capable of protecting the entire mine system was needed. The cost for such an artifact was extremely expensive, far beyond Dmitri's usual budget. Roman understood this clearly. He nodded, acknowledging all difficulties, from the cost to the fact that the magical shield would not last forever. But despite that, he firmly believed if it could save lives, it was worth pursuing. Roman asserted that installing the magical device was not merely to ensure safety, it also opened the potential for significantly increased mining productivity. His gaze showed not only determination, but also a long-term strategic vision. If fully protected by the magical device, previously abandoned high-risk mining areas could be exploited again. With that prospect, development limits would be erased, opening a future of comprehensive growth. Roman called this the opportunity cost, the price of not daring to invest to reach further. Although the initial investment was very large, Roman was undeterred. If they could generate higher revenue through expanded mining scale, all financial risks would be justified. For him, this was a gamble that House Dmitri had nothing to lose. Roman did not stop at the profit outlook. He proposed a specialized workforce system to monitor safety and minimize workplace accidents. Moreover, he planned to use part of the increased revenue to improve miners' benefits, a deeply humanitarian plan. Roman's father, after listening to the detailed analysis, was surprisingly impressed. He admitted his son had prepared thoroughly and considered every aspect before making the proposal, showing remarkable maturity. Instead of opposing as before, Roman's father directly asked how much money he needed him to invest. But at the same time, he set an expectation. Roman must present a truly convincing business plan to ensure the investment was worthwhile. Shifting to a flashback, the story mentioned the Murim world, where only the strong survive. Here, two organizations used information as a powerful weapon to build their reputations, Gibang and Haemon. Gibang was an organization of beggars wandering everywhere. They gathered information by listening to stories on the fringes of life, a form of espionage no one expected but extremely effective. Meanwhile, Haemon gathered lower-class people like tavern and restaurant owners. Though humble, they always kept their ears open to observe every conversation, thereby collecting countless important news across regions. Roman revealed the real reason he chose to work in the mine instead of the forge. He understood that miners made up most of Dimitri's population. Through them, Roman believed he could collect data from across the northeast region, and with his father's resources, he aspired to establish an intelligence organization like Haemon right in this world. Roman Dimitri stared intently at the map spread before him, burning with the desire to create a powerful intelligence guild. Although he had clearly outlined the path ahead, he understood that currently he still lacked the necessary resources to turn that idea into reality. Not only wanting to gather information in Dimitri's northeast area, Roman harbored a bigger vision, to build an intelligence network extending across the continent. Under the morning light streaming through the window, his eyes shone with ambition and unwavering determination. However, Roman also clearly understood current limitations. The miners were not professional spies, and the information they held needed careful selection. To truly expand the plan, he needed to connect with Dimitri's merchants, those capable of accessing and transmitting information from the outside world. After a moment of contemplation, a sharp gleam appeared in Roman's eyes. He gave a subtle, meaningful smile. In his mind, he already had the perfect person, someone who could help him operate the intelligence network most effectively. After the war, while everyone was still living in the shadow of grief, unexpected news spread throughout the camp. The soldiers would be trained in mana-breathing techniques and swordsmanship. This bold decision stirred the entire army, opening a new chapter for Dimitri's future. The messenger loudly announced that this was a gift from Lord Roman to all the soldiers. Those who had faced life and death together were now granted a precious opportunity, the chance to learn a power usually reserved only for the privileged. Though it was a rare opportunity, the strict training requirements left many shocked. Physical training was already harsh, and now combined with magical training, it made quite a few hesitate. A surprised exclamation rose from the crowd. Impossible. A question appeared in everyone's mind. What is mana breathing? In a surreal scene, a figure was meditating amidst swirling red energy. This was the method to unlock and control the body's hidden energy, turning it into real power. However, ordinary people only knew of cheap imitation techniques that brought no real results. What Roman was about to teach was completely different, a true secret art, so precious it could not be measured in gold or silver. Doubt still lingered in many hearts. With suspicious eyes, a warrior silently thought that even a father would not teach his own child mana-breathing techniques. He believed Roman would only teach a poor imitation, and that doubt reflected the fragile trust between lord and soldiers. Although they had sworn loyalty to Roman Dimitri in words, the soldiers still harbored doubts. They understood that true loyalty was not just in oaths, but needed to be proven through actions and time. They did not trust enough yet, nor felt worthy to receive such a precious gift. The person delivering the message continued in a serious tone. The breathing technique they were about to learn was called Brave Spirit Breathing Technique, originating from a distant land, completely unrelated to Murim. That made it even more mysterious and rare. Lucas, one of the soldiers, was astonished to realize the unthinkable. His body was actually sensing mana flowing within. This was not a scam or fake technique as he had thought, but a real phenomenon. After just a few days of practice, Lucas's senses had become astonishingly sharp. He could even feel gentle breezes brushing against his skin, a sensation he had never experienced before. These changes confirmed the value of the breathing technique just taught. Not stopping at breathing alone, this technique also came with the Brave Spirit Swordsmanship, consisting of 108 counter moves. It was a complete combat system, where every strike was harmoniously coordinated with internal energy techniques, creating overwhelming power. Lucas was amazed, watching his body glow with awakened mana energy. In his mind echoed the question, who is Roman Dimitri? For with such a valuable technique, no one would dare share it, let alone teach it to soldiers. If he possessed such precious techniques, Lucas thought to himself, he would keep them secret like treasures. Not only would he not teach them to soldiers, he wouldn't even dare pass them on to his own family. From that, he admired and was bewildered by Roman's generosity even more. In the past, Lucas had spent all his assets just to find a chance to learn a mana breathing technique, but was always disappointed. Yet now, his fate had completely changed thanks to a free gift from his lord. A happy smile appeared on his face, full of vitality. Gratitude compelled Lucas to meet Roman. No longer a doubter, he bowed his head and sincerely asked to fight alongside the one he had chosen as his lord. This was a plea from the depths of a once-lost warrior's heart. Roman looked at the man before him and thought silently. Though the offer seemed simple, this man was no ordinary person. With extensive connections, flexible adaptability, and rich battlefield experience, he was fully worthy of being entrusted with a more important role. Lucas stood silently in the room, his eyes filled with sadness. Deep inside, he admitted that he was the perfect candidate to run the intelligence organization Roman desired. However, that also meant he would have to leave the lord to whom he had sworn loyalty. Placing his hand on his chest, Lucas choked up as he recalled his old oath. He had stood shoulder to shoulder with Roman in the war against Barco. On that life-and-death line, he promised to dedicate his entire life to the one leader he respected. Lucas pleaded earnestly. His eyes revealed worry as he bowed and made his urgent request to Roman. He did not want to be sent elsewhere, nor did he want to leave the one he was determined to follow to the end. Roman slightly curled his lips in a smile. A sharp thought flashed through his mind. Lucas was a good actor. But behind that emotional facade, was there something else hidden? Roman decided to ask a question to test him. In a calm voice, Roman asked why he taught them the brave spirit breathing and swordsmanship techniques. Lucas was embarrassed and didn't know how to answer, but Roman confidently stated it was his way of repaying their loyalty. Roman continued to probe deeper. He asked what Lucas thought of him, a man willing to dedicate all precious secrets just because of an oath of loyalty. That question not only challenged Lucas's perception, but also revealed the true nature of the Lord. Lucas still did not fully understand the implication. Roman gently explained that loyalty was mandatory for anyone who followed him into battle. It was not a gift, but a price to pay, nothing more, nothing less. Roman affirmed that if a subordinate could take on a role greater than an ordinary warrior, then the deserved reward would certainly be greater. That statement was a subtle hint meant specifically for Lucas. Lucas was stunned, his eyes wide with amazement. He could not believe there was something beyond even the brave spirit technique, a secret art that had been a lifelong dream for many. Finally, Lucas bowed deeply. He no longer hesitated. With renewed determination, he vowed to do his utmost to build the greatest intelligence organization this continent had ever seen. Roman looked at Lucas with absolute trust. Though he knew the man before him was hiding a clever act behind his loyalty, Roman did not hesitate to entrust him with the most important role, the head of the intelligence guild. This decision came from both reason and foresight. At the mine, when the familiar figure appeared under the blazing sun, the miners suddenly paused. They were surprised to see their lord approaching without any entourage or ceremony, just a simple man stepping among the people. As soon as they recognized it was Roman, the crowd erupted in cheers. "It's Lord Roman!" His presence here carried not only power but also trust, symbolizing a different future they had never dared to dream of. The miners quickly surrounded Roman, collectively thanking him for the reforms he brought. They knew well, thanks to the Lord's investment in working conditions, their lives were preserved in this harsh labor. An elderly man was moved to tears. His face streamed with tears as he recounted how his only son survived a mine accident thanks to the rescue system improved by Roman. Amid sobs, he called Roman the benefactor of my life. Unable to contain his emotions, the old father knelt before Roman, vowing to dedicate his life to serving the leader who saved his son. With all sincerity, he declared he would go wherever Roman needed, a devotion born from the deepest gratitude. In response to that heartfelt sentiment, Roman simply smiled gently and expressed his thanks. His eyes were not those of an arrogant ruler, but of a true leader, one who values every heart that places its trust in him. From that day on, loyalty to Roman spread like a flame in a strong wind. People from all over the Dimitri land began to look at him with eyes of hope, not just as a lord, but as someone who could change their destiny. But while the entire land was filled with trust and excitement, elsewhere, in a large room where light filtered through a red window, a man sat motionless. It was Baron Romero, facing the turbulent waves within his mind. Baron Romero, Roman's father, could not stop himself from falling into a fierce internal struggle. Standing between past and present, he began to question himself, his son, and the path their family was heading toward. A month has passed since the war with House Barco ended. In the cold atmosphere of winter, the Dimitri family held a regular meeting to summarize the current situation and plan the next moves on the gradually changing political chessboard. In the main meeting room of Dimitri, key members gathered around the large table. One of them asserted that with the destruction of House Barco, no force remained strong enough to block Dimitri's path to supremacy. Another member added, emphasizing that even the clans once loyal to Barco were beginning to show goodwill in allying with Dmitri, seeking survival in the newly formed order. The silver-haired count reported that, by the Lord's orders, clans formerly close to Barco and fiercely opposed to Dmitri had been excluded from all negotiations and were forbidden from any contact, even by correspondence. Amid the tense atmosphere, a crucial question was raised. With former adversaries now seeking reconciliation, how would Dmitri respond? Forgiveness or punishment? Baron Romero stood up, his eyes resolute. He believed that shaking hands with those who had caused harm was not mercy but dangerous complacency, a humiliation to the unhealed pain of those loyal to Dmitri. Romero declared firmly, there would be no cooperation, neither now nor ever. Dmitri must show the world the price of choosing the wrong enemy. That declaration froze the atmosphere. Worried, even fearful looks appeared on the faces of council members, especially those who had leaned toward neutrality. Not letting silence linger too long, the leader moved to the next topic. He recalled the lesson from the war. Barco had to rely on outside forces to salvage the situation, and that created uncontrollable variables. Without prior preparation, variables like Flair or the senior warrior Homerus could have turned the tide unfavorably. That's why a council member proposed expanding the military forces and equipping more magical weapons to be ready for any future uncertainties. The head of the Dmitri family quietly considered the proposal to expand the militia. For him, it was not only an effective military solution, but also the safest option amid Dmitri's rising power. Thanks to Roman's excellent financial management, Dmitri's treasury was more abundant than ever. Although the cost of deploying magical devices in the mines was considerable, everything had been fully paid, demonstrating the leader's foresight. The magical devices not only ensured safety, but also boosted extraction efficiency. In a short time, output from the mines surged by 30%, reflecting the direct impact of strategic improvements. A report was presented confirming clear economic benefits from recent reforms. The advisory team could not hide their satisfaction, as the figures showed results exceeding expectations. One council member assessed that if the current growth trend continued, Dmitri could expect production to double in the near future. Optimism spread throughout the meeting room. When asked about initial investment costs, the answer was immediate. Thanks to recent strong profit increases, that expense was fully affordable, showing that the new policy had yielded outstanding returns. Everyone had to admit that Roman was right. No one ordered him to work in the mines, but he did so voluntarily. His actions were not only shocking but also deeply inspiring. Having witnessed miners' hardships firsthand, Roman understood the core issues and quickly proposed practical solutions. This dedication made his decisions absolutely trustworthy. From someone once despised, Roman had now earned absolute trust from everyone. With what he had proven, no one doubted his capability or leadership anymore. One noble unexpectedly raised a pivotal question. Have you made any plans for the succession of the Dmitri family? And with a sharp gaze, the head of the family knew that the final power game had begun. The Dmitri family meeting grew tense when a member recalled the Lord's decision 3 years ago, choosing Rodwell as the successor. At that time, Roman's impulsive actions and lack of competence made the council unable to trust the eldest son. However, time has changed everything. What was once a reason to exclude Roman no longer applies. A new hope is gradually emerging in the light of reality. The achievements in the war against Barco, the initiative to ensure the safety of the iron mine, and his superior swordsmanship, all clearly demonstrated Roman Dmitri's maturity and leadership qualities. Through a series of recent actions, Roman has shown himself fully worthy of the heir position. Council members spoke one after another in agreement, acknowledging his capability as a true leader. Nevertheless, a noble reminded that the Lord had not yet made an official declaration. Wishing to ensure fairness, he proposed holding a competition to select the most deserving heir. The idea of organizing a contest between Roman and Rodwell quickly caused a shockwave in the usually peaceful Dmitri domain. All eyes turned to the two brothers preparing to face off for the succession title. Roman and Rodwell, two sons, two different paths. The head of Dmitri pondered deeply, realizing that this confrontation was not only about choosing a successor, but also shaping the future of the entire family. Roman had proven his worth in a short time, but Rodwell was devoted and committed to responsibility from a young age. This made the Lord hesitate. Was such a competition truly the right decision? Amid many conflicting thoughts, he chose to wait and observe further. The final decision would only be made when he was truly certain about an unchangeable choice. In the tense atmosphere of the meeting, a soft sigh was heard. Though no conclusion had been reached, everyone understood. The real battle to determine Dmitri's heir had officially begun. The lord of House Dmitri understood that choosing a successor could not be based solely on personal will. He realized he needed consensus from those directly influencing the future of this land, including loyal retainers, the head of the ore mine, and the chief blacksmith. In his heart, he knew that only with approval from these three pillars would organizing the heir selection competition be legitimate, even if it might lead to waves of chaos. With clear determination, he called out, "Summon Hans to me." Hans, the seasoned and loyal steward, entered the room with a surprised expression. Before his master's serious gaze, he was confused and asked, "What did you just say, my lord?" The lord did not beat around the bush, looking directly at Hans and asking the crucial question. He wanted to know whether Hans believed Roman, once doubted, was now worthy to take over House Dmitri. Faced with that serious question, Hans was silent for a moment. If asked 3 months ago, he would have firmly opposed. At that time, in his eyes, Roman did not possess the qualities of an heir. However, Hans had since changed his mind. After witnessing Roman's growth and actions, he no longer had any doubts. In his eyes, Roman was now the ideal candidate for the succession. The lord nodded slightly, signaling he wanted to hear more. He did not just want affirmation, but needed to see the reasons and real change from the once hopeless son. Hans began recounting the story of Roman voluntarily working in the mines, a decision unprecedented for someone of noble lineage. Roman did not do it for show, but to truly understand the people tied to the Dmitri land. Not just words, Roman genuinely immersed himself in miners' lives, laboring alongside them with every swing of the pickaxe. Through that action, he gradually felt the harsh reality the people here endured daily. Hans concluded his presentation with a determined look. To him, Roman was now brave enough and deeply understood the responsibility named Dmitri. The lord quietly sensed that change, then softly told Hans to withdraw so he could continue considering the final step. After receiving Hans's testimony, Lord Dmitri immediately requested the iron mine overseer to be brought in. His concern now was not only about the successor, but also about the serious mine collapse that had occurred. When the miner Jacob appeared before him, the lord suddenly noticed a strange face standing behind him. The person's timid demeanor and reserved posture immediately raised his suspicion. Jacob respectfully reported that he had brought a direct witness involved in the mine collapse to help clarify the truth. This action showed Jacob's seriousness and respect for the lord's request. The miner named Morkan could not hide his embarrassment standing before the noble, hastily introducing himself in confusion. Despite hesitation, he mustered all his courage to speak. Hearing the name Morkan, the lord nodded in recognition. He quickly asked Morkan to recount in detail the entire incident that happened that day, with sharp eyes and intense focus. Morkan began narrating the terrifying event that occurred exactly 1 week after Lord Roman started working in the mine. At that time, a part of the mine suddenly collapsed, trapping a worker and forcing the group to follow the safety procedures as instructed. However, as everyone was preparing to retreat to avoid further collapse, Roman spoke up asking permission to act alone. He insisted he would personally enter and rescue the trapped worker. Although everyone tried to stop him because it was too dangerous, Roman did not hesitate and rushed straight into the collapsed area. That reckless act stunned all the miners, who were shocked by his unimaginable courage. Morkan admitted that he had no sympathy for Roman before. He used to think that a noble-born like Roman could never understand or care about the hardships of laborers. However, witnessing Roman risking his life to save someone awakened Morkan from his old prejudice. He understood that Roman truly carried the spirit of responsibility of a Dmitri heir, willing to bear pain and risk on behalf of the people. The rescue of the trapped worker that day was thanks to Roman's brave action. Without hesitation, he took responsibility himself, ready to face danger. In that tense scene, Roman decisively said, "I will go." The simple words contained unwavering determination, leaving everyone around stunned. Before the count, Morkan and Jacob could not hide their gratitude. Morkan bowed his head, expressing absolute trust, affirming that Roman was the one he wanted to see lead Dmitri in the future. Morkan's sincere words made the count thoughtful. Although everyone considered Roman the most promising candidate for heir, he still could not make a final decision. The only thing missing was the opinion of the chief blacksmith. In the count's eyes, Hendrik's voice was the most important in deciding Dmitri's future. Amid the sound of hammering, a young blacksmith hurriedly reported, "Master, we have received a package from Lord Roman." Speaking, he looked confused about how to proceed. Seeing the young blacksmith's bewilderment, Hendrik briefly ordered, "Bring it in." The simple words contained the decisiveness of a seasoned master. When he saw his junior hesitate, Hendrik turned around, his eyes blazing like forged steel, sternly repeating, "I said bring it in." His strictness made the young smith immediately obey. In Hendrik's mind, the thought of refusing the package flashed. But after hearing Jacob's story about Roman's sacrifice during the mine collapse, he regretted having been harsh with the young man without just cause. When the blacksmiths opened the box, before their eyes was a chaotic scene. Amidst piles of discarded weapons, a shining sword glowed brightly, leaving everyone stunned. Master Hendrik was stunned by the sword glowing with metallic light in his hand. He clearly felt its astonishing perfection. The blade was smooth, the hardness ideal, and the hilt was light yet incredibly sturdy. Even in Dimitri, the sanctuary of blacksmithing, Hendrik rarely saw a masterpiece crafted with such exquisite skill. He was amazed and wondered how Roman could possess a sword that far exceeded ordinary standards. He brought the sword close to the forge to test its reaction to mana. The flame immediately reacted fiercely, light enveloping the blade. This surprised Hendrik even more. The sword was not only excellent in form, but also carried a special magical element. Without any mana being channeled into it, the sword automatically resonated powerfully. Hendrik could not hide his astonishment. This was a weapon any knight using aura would risk everything to possess. Hendrik silently admitted, although Dimitri could pride itself on the continent's finest forging craft, creating a sword with such an extraordinary mana response was a completely different matter. This was not just a product of skill, it was a miracle. As the light from the blade gradually faded, the heavily damaged armor sets were restored like new, shining steel under the sun. The entire forge's achievement impressed everyone with its speed and quality beyond expectations. A blond young man came to check progress, unable to hide his surprise at seeing everything completed. He had thought it would take 2 weeks to handle, but everything was finished in a short time. The young smith explained. It usually took 2 weeks, but Master Hendrik had not rested, working tirelessly. Caught up in that determination, the whole forge had to race along as if their lives depended on the schedule. The blond youth turned to Hendrik with suspicion. A worried expression was clear. Something had driven the legendary blacksmith to act so unusually, and he was determined to find out what it was. Still shaken by the masterpiece, Hendrik roared inwardly a question full of doubt and amazement. "Roman, where did you get a sword like this?" A question even the most skilled smiths could not answer. At the forge yard, Master Hendrik could not hide his skepticism facing Roman. Still overwhelmed by the sword's superior quality, he pressed, "Who forged this sword?" The question carried not only simple curiosity, but also a challenge only a true master could answer. Facing the scrutinizing gaze, Roman smiled meaningfully. Inside, he confirmed everything was going according to plan. With absolute confidence, he rejected any assumption that the sword was a lucky find somewhere. His determined eyes seemed to say, "This is not a random miracle, but the result of his own hands." Hendrik was momentarily confused, unable to believe what he had just heard. He asked again, full of doubt, "What did you say? What do you mean?" Roman's answer seemed unacceptable. For his experience and knowledge, no young man could possess forging skills at this level. But the truth was confirmed by Roman himself. With one hand on his chest, he frankly admitted, "That sword was forged by me." The declaration rang out like a shock, not only shaking Master Hendrik, but also irrefutably affirming that Roman was no longer the useless heir of old. He was writing his own destiny with his own hands and genuine talent. Under the warm sunlight shining on the forge's tiled roof, the peaceful scene seemed completely at odds with the boiling emotions of the young man. Roman Dimitri was preparing for a declaration that would change everything, the truth about the sword that had shaken all of Dimitri. Roman and Master Hendrik entered the forge, where the flames still burned bright red. With a determined voice, Roman began recounting the process leading to the creation of that special sword, a sword that was not merely a weapon, but the crystallization of the will to survive in war. Amidst the firelit space, Roman revealed that he had personally stepped into the furnace and forged the sword with his own hands, not out of arrogance, but because he needed something trustworthy enough to stake his life on in the battle against Barco. Hendrik remained silent, only listening. But when Roman shared that the forge gradually became a sacred place where he found calm and focus, the old blacksmith's eyes softened slightly, as if that touched a memory within him. Roman smiled, looking at the man standing opposite him. He spoke sincerely, like a true craftsman confiding in a predecessor, that surely Master Hendrik had also felt an invisible bond with this place, where metal becomes will. The fire blazed brightly, its light casting on Roman's determined face. He admitted that time was running out. The military mission awaited. Therefore, he had begun forging a new sword, hoping it would inherit Salamander's role. In the silence filled only with the crackling of burning wood, Roman's declaration carried a weight beyond words. He chose to face the challenge not only with combat skills, but with his craftsmanship, demonstrating a distinctive leadership quality. Roman stopped before the anvil, his eyes shining with steady light. He did not try to persuade with words, but wanted to prove everything through action. The forge was no longer a strange place, but the first battlefield where he honed his will and skill. Master Hendrik stood behind observing, his gaze gradually shifting from doubt to contemplation. Faced with Roman's sincerity and spirit, he began to understand. This was no longer the weak noble boy of old, but a man who had forged his own ideals with hot steel. The flames continued to burn brightly in the forge, but now they not only consumed metal, but also melted the boundary between doubt and belief. Roman was preparing to create a new sword, not just for war, but for the fate of the entire Dimitri land. Roman Dimitri looked seriously at Master Hendrik, placing his hand on the glowing steel block. With a calm yet meaningful tone, he declared he would prove the truth through action, showing that he himself forged the sword, not by words but by the process of creating it. Without hesitation, Roman took off his outer shirt, preparing for the forging work. His action surprised Hendrik, for the experienced blacksmith had never seen anyone start without any protective gear. Hendrik sighed wearily. Deep down, he concluded that Roman was just putting on a show. To him, anyone who ignored the basic principles of blacksmithing was not worth watching further. But just as he was about to turn away, a loud and resounding clang echoed. The hammer struck the metal block with a sharp sound, freezing the atmosphere in that moment. Master Hendrik's eyes widened in astonishment. His shocked gaze revealed an undeniable truth. Before him was no longer an ignorant person, but a true blacksmith. Roman entered a state of absolute focus. His hammer strikes seemed to connect two worlds, the present world and Murim. With knowledge from Murim, where energy is perfectly controlled, Roman channeled part of his power into each hammer blow, because here he could not use his full mana. In Murim, an ideal sword is not merely a weapon, it is a tool to optimize energy flow. The image that appeared in Roman's mind, a warrior with a sword radiating brilliant purple light, representing the ultimate standard in the ancient world's martial arts. Memories of the past surged like a raging forest fire. In that bloody life of warfare, Roman had forged countless swords to suit each stage of battle. Each blade was a witness to every fight, every victory or defeat. The forging fire blazed high, enveloping Roman's body as if burning his soul. But his gaze did not waver. Instead, the calmness and determination made even the flames pause before that iron will. In that moment, Roman was completely immersed in the state of sword forging. The hammer blows echoed incessantly, blending with the clang like the beat of a war drum. Hendrik stood watching, his mind shaken. Could this really be Roman Dimitri, the one once despised by the entire territory? Watching each hammer strike of Roman, Master Hendrik was amazed by the posture, speed, and sharp resonance from the blow on the hot iron. Everything was so perfect it reminded him of the peak era of another man, the one who had once been the symbol of forging craftsmanship in the Dimitri house. The image of Roman shining in the firelight evoked old memories of the nobleman in his glory. Hendrik could not deny that the Dimitri bloodline, though buried by time, still flowed strongly in every movement of Roman. The long day gradually came to an end, sunset descending on the forge's roof. In the silence after the fervor, time seemed to pause to mark an important milestone for both the blacksmith and the one who once doubted him. With sincere humility, Master Hendrik bowed before Roman. He admitted the truth had proven everything. Roman was not only the owner of the sword, but also a true master in the art of iron forging. An apology was spoken from the bottom of his heart. Roman gave a gentle smile, neither arrogant nor smug. It was a quiet acknowledgement of a man who knew clearly the path he walked and was content to be recognized without force. To Hendrik's astonishment, Roman suddenly said, "You may keep the salamander." The words rang out like a great gift, leaving the old blacksmith stunned, unable to react to such unexpected sincerity. Roman further explained that he had begun forging a new sword. Although salamander was his first masterpiece, he never intended to keep it for himself. Partly because of a sinful past, he had once sold Hendrik's work just to get a few coins. With a sincere voice, Roman officially presented the salamander sword to Hendrik as a gift. It was not only an act of atonement, but also recognition of the true value of the old master and the bond between two generations. The story unexpectedly shifted to 3 years earlier. In the dark scene of the past, helpless screams echoed, pleading for people to acknowledge the truth. It was the beginning of an important flashback related to the Dimitri family. Master Hendrik, full of anger at that meeting, vehemently opposed. Allowing Roman, the weak eldest son, to inherit was pushing House Dimitri's future into an abyss. To him, bloodline could not save incompetence. Under the blazing forge fire, Master Hendrik carefully observed every move of Roman. The stance, speed, and echoing sound of the hammer striking iron stunned him. Everything, from force, rhythm to feeling, was so perfect it recalled glorious memories of a great blacksmith he once knew, Roman's father. In that moment, Roman's image merged into distant memories like a reflected copy. Hendrik silently admitted that the blood of a true master still flowed in Roman, and that essential nature had never truly been lost. Blood ties ultimately cannot deceive. The sunset cast a golden glow over the Dimitri workshop roof. A long day ended, but the milestone of silent recognition from Hendrik was just beginning, a subtle yet profound shift in belief. When the forging session ended, Master Hendrik bowed before Roman, a rare act from a proud man. He had seen the truth and could not hide his admiration. "So you are the owner of that sword," he uttered, his voice low but full of respect. Roman responded with a gentle smile. In his eyes was no arrogance, only a hint of humor mixed with satisfaction at finally being acknowledged by the one who once looked down on him. With a calm voice, Roman handed the salamander sword back to Hendrik as a gift. It was not only repayment for the newly earned trust, but also a symbol of the beginning of a new relationship, not just blacksmith and heir, but two men who understood each other through fire and steel. Roman further explained, he was crafting a new sword and no longer needed salamander. More importantly, the past secret sales of swords he forged for pocket money were now behind him. Now, he chose to act with an open heart. With a sincere smile, Roman placed the salamander sword into Hendrik's hands. "I want to give this to you," he said, not in a condescending tone, but as a gratitude for the hard years that forged who he is today. 3 years ago, when Roman was despised and considered a disgrace to the Dmitri lineage, was now only a painful memory. Hendrik had shouted in that meeting, choosing Roman was throwing away Dmitri's future. But that past was now defeated by reality. Now, as Roman stepped out of the shadow of slander to prove himself through action, it was Master Hendrik, the fiercest opponent before, who strongly affirmed that Roman was the worthy candidate to inherit the Dmitri family. With a serious gaze and decisive voice, Lord Dmitri declared that not only by stories, but he had personally witnessed Roman forging iron with his own hands. This awakened a new faith in the heart of the father who once doubted his eldest son. In the intense heat radiating from the forge, Roman focused deeply, each hammer strike expressing passion and dedication to the craft. Lord Dmitri silently admitted that any seasoned blacksmith would be proud to witness such a scene. The Lord tightly grasped the sword's hilt, a work forged by Roman himself, and solemnly stated, this was no ordinary weapon. Even a brief glance would reveal its superior value to any discerning eye. He raised the sword, carefully observing every detail, balance, and the sharp gleam of the blade. Silent for a moment, he uttered a simple yet meaningful phrase, "I understand now." Looking closely at the glowing sword in his hand, Lord Dmitri was astonished. He wondered how Roman, the son once deemed useless, could create such an extraordinary weapon, far beyond what anyone had imagined. As the chief blacksmith of the entire Dmitri region, Master Hendrik sternly advised, it was time to reconsider the decision made 3 years ago when Roman was removed from the heir position. Silently opening a desk drawer, the Lord took out a letter sealed with a familiar wax mark. Inside him stirred an undercurrent between the reality before him and hopes sent from afar. The letter was from Rodwell, the second son, currently studying at the Royal Kairos Academy. In it, Rodwell shared the good news that he had been promoted to Class S, a rare and proud achievement. Rodwell was not only studying theory, but also participating in real combat as a trainee commander. The promise from this promising son echoed in the letter. He would graduate with top scores, bringing glory to the Dmitri family. The letter ended with a sincere promise. Rodwell would return and make his father proud. Standing by the window, Lord Dmitri gazed thoughtfully at the sky, carrying hope and concerns about the future of his two sons. The head of House Dmitri recalled his two sons, Roman and Rodwell. Both were talented young men, but when he compared them, he could not deny that although Rodwell was a genius, the current Roman had surpassed all conventional limits. With deep eyes, he looked at the map of Cairo and thought of the vast future. Roman, with innate talent and outstanding ability, could potentially dominate not only the kingdom of Cairo, but the entire continent if he continued on his current path. In his heart, a plan gradually formed. When Rodwell graduated from the Royal Academy and Roman completed his military service, that would be the crucial time to decide the true heir of Dmitri. A few days later, the scene shifted to Dmitri Castle. Under the clear blue sky, an important figure was approaching this territory. Willis, the priest responsible for evaluating the night rankings of the Valhalla Temple. Willis and an attendant rode horses across the wooden bridge leading into Dmitri City. Their arrival was not merely ceremonial, but carried a significant mission that would directly affect the reputation and status of House Dmitri. Romero Dmitri welcomed the guests at the main gate with a friendly yet respectful attitude. He quickly confirmed their identity. It was indeed representatives from the Cairo branch of the Valhalla Temple as expected. Willis spoke politely but could not hide his curiosity. He stated that he came to verify rumors that Roman had defeated Homerus, a ranked knight, a very rare case that required a direct meeting for accurate assessment. Willis understood the importance of this. Any family, no matter how low their status, that possessed a ranked knight would immediately elevate their position, potentially entering the ranks of prestigious families across the continent. Romero smiled apologetically because Roman had been busy forging for several days and suggested postponing the meeting until tomorrow. However, he warmly invited the guests to tour Dmitri to better understand the intrinsic strength of this land. Willis accepted the invitation, and Romero immediately assigned a close aide to guide them on a tour. This trip was not only social, but also an opportunity for the Valhalla House to witness firsthand the true potential of House Dimitri. While the guests toured Dimitri City, a guide enthusiastically introduced the unparalleled sturdiness of the castle gates, the pride of this place's defensive architecture. However, distant shouts of "1, 2" suddenly echoed, causing Willis to turn around in curiosity. Willis quickly identified the source of the sound. From the training grounds, warriors were practicing in perfect formation, their rhythmic shouts shaking the air. The synchronization and determination evident in every step made Willis unable to suppress his curiosity, so he asked if he could observe the training session. The guide appeared friendly and open, allowing Willis to watch the practice from afar. Willis nodded appreciatively, secretly hoping to witness the true strength of the soldiers under Roman Dimitri's command. At that moment, a sudden loud explosion thundered like a clap of thunder, shaking the entire city. Large wooden beams were blasted away, signaling an extraordinary confrontation unfolding right in the training area. A fierce flash of light erupted, accompanied by the whistle of wind and surging hot air. Two bare-chested warriors with bulging muscles charged at each other at terrifying speed, each wielding weapons, as if preparing for a life-or-death battle. The first soldier, Pucky, shouted loudly during the fight, reminding his comrade Kevin that he was vulnerable in defense and easily exhausted. His tone conveyed seriousness, but also a teasing camaraderie among fellow soldiers. Not willing to be outdone, Kevin, with his fiery red hair, responded confidently, demanding his opponent keep the teasing for after victory. His words reflected a strong fighting spirit along with a proud, tenacious character. The match entered a tense phase as both soldiers roared and unleashed fierce energy. The combat aura from the two clashed violently, shaking the surrounding space, signaling a confrontation far beyond ordinary training levels. Willis, who had intended only to observe simply, was now completely stunned. His eyes widened, mouth agape in surprise. The scene before him far exceeded any expectations of a typical training session. In Willis's dazed gaze, a truth gradually became clear. Both soldiers, Kevin and Pucky, were Aura Knights, rare warriors possessing extraordinary power. For any noble house, merely having one such individual was enough to build a reputation. 30 people were selected as soldiers for House Dimitri. None of them possessed the Aura Knight ability. All were ordinary individuals, without martial arts background, let alone innate talent. However, among them, someone was quietly remarked upon by Roman Dimitri. "You were born with a physique suited for martial arts." A simple statement, but filled with a strong premonition. At that time, no one understood what that evaluation meant. The person himself only scratched his head in confusion, but less than a month later, that statement began to reveal the truth. The soldier named Pucky, originally just a rough, ordinary man, was the first in Roman's troop to awaken aura. The blue energy radiating from his body stunned everyone. From that moment, Roman Dimitri's entire army drastically changed their attitude. No one was lazy or trained half-heartedly anymore. Everyone threw themselves into training as if their lives depended on it. Each person nurtured a burning desire to become stronger, surpass themselves, and break all limits. It was not just training, but a journey to find true power. The atmosphere in the training ground was as hot as fire. The clashing sounds of weapons echoed like thunder, streaks of blue and red aura lit up the sky. They were fighting, but not only against enemies, they were fighting themselves. Pucky, now an Aura Knight, charged forward with all his strength. Shouting proudly, he pressured his opponent. "Try to block this." At the same time, his weapon was enveloped by explosive energy in a fierce attack. The wave of blue aura shattered like a whirlwind. Each slash carried tremendous weight, striking the opponent Kevin, who was also using red aura to fiercely resist, causing the surrounding space to explode with loud boom sounds. Kevin said nothing. Under the suffocating pressure of relentless attacks, he only clenched his jaw and kept his gaze unwavering. The rain of aura continued to pour down, but Kevin stood firm, ready to face it to the end. When the fighting spirit filled the arena, the red-haired young man fiercely charged like a living sword. His blazing eyes and glowing red sword drawing a deadly curve in the air, aiming straight at the opponent, raising his hand to block. Pucky opened his eyes wide in shock and panic as he felt the cold, killing intent brush past his face, the red light of the blade reflecting in his pupils, and a silent curse escaped his mouth in frustration. The violent clash thundered like a storm, light flared for a moment, and Pucky's muscular body was thrown into the air by an unexpected counterattack, causing the stands to tremble. In anger, Pucky roared, demanding to end the match decisively. But his opponent, strangely calm, only replied with a sharp reminder, "Keep your mind clear if you don't want to lose your life." Not giving his opponent a chance to react, the red-haired young man dashed like lightning, attacking so fast that the naked eye could hardly follow, leaving a red streak tearing through the air. With a perfectly precise spin, he quickly closed in behind his opponent. If this were a real battlefield, Pucky's head would probably have fallen before he realized what had happened. While the entire arena fell silent, an old noble frowned in shock. What he had just witnessed was not crude fighting tactics but terrifyingly skilled swordsmanship from two soldiers considered commoners. The majestic Dmitri Castle stood under the clear sky, but in the noble's eyes, this place was now no different from the legendary Valhalla battlefield, where only immortal warriors are honored. Observing the two young soldiers facing off, the noble no longer doubted. These were not ordinary soldiers, but elite warriors, the result of House Dmitri's full investment. A surge of shock rose within the observer as he wondered, since when did Dmitri possess such tremendous human power? On the arena, the two warriors still glared at each other, emitting pressure that made the air feel thick and heavy. A noble watching the match could not help but be amazed. Although he knew House Dmitri was one of the most influential families in the northeast region, the actual strength they were displaying far exceeded all expectations, not at all like a small border family. Faced with the overwhelming battle scene, a retainer turned to ask Priest Willis with suspicion. What was happening did not resemble a normal mining town. Even Priest Willis was confused, admitting he was unsure what he was witnessing. Willis, swallowing nervously, affirmed one thing he was certain of: the fighters were absolutely not ordinary knights. By common reasoning, Willis thought those warriors must be elite guards under Baron Romero Dmitri. But immediately, a servant standing nearby denied this. They were not part of House Dmitri's regular forces. The servant's face broke into a smug smile as he revealed a shocking truth. The people the priests were watching had nothing to do with the Dmitri family. They were Roman's personal army, absolutely loyal to him alone. Willis opened his eyes wide, speechless with astonishment. The fact that those warriors were not even official knights made it even harder for him to believe the reality he was witnessing. Unable to stay calm, Willis grabbed the servant's shirt and exclaimed in frustration. He could not understand how warriors with Aura Knight abilities had been demoted to ordinary soldiers. Was it due to enormous resources, or were they still in training to be knighted? The servant looked embarrassed by the barrage of questions. He did not understand why Priest Willis was so interested, but began to explain, implying that when referring to those people, it must be Kevin and Pucky. The truth gradually emerged. Kevin and Pucky were not Aura Knights from the start. Previously, they were completely ordinary people without any supernatural power. Kevin had once been a poor boy, barely surviving at the bottom of society. But Roman Dmitri recognized his potential and specially took Kevin under his wing for training, marking a fateful turning point in the boy's life. Before joining Roman's command, Pucky had been a C-rank mercenary, a battle-hardened man but never officially recognized within any noble family system. Under Roman Dmitri's guidance, both Kevin and Pucky transformed. They did not become strong through luck or magic, but through strict training and the extensive knowledge of their master. The fact that two men without noble origins or formal training could reach such superior strength just by following Roman stunned all who witnessed it. It was clear evidence of the extraordinary ability of the Dmitri heir. Not only possessing strength and strategic vision, Roman also had a special ability to recognize hidden potential in others. He did not choose people by fame, but by instinct and keen intuition. Witnessing the achievements Roman brought to the Dmitri lands, many did not hesitate to call him a blessing to the family, a rare figure in a turbulent era. Faced with what he had just seen, Priest Willis could not hide his confusion. A big question surged within him. Who exactly was Roman Dmitri? The next day, in a formal and quiet room, the gentle sound of a glass being set down was heard. The long-awaited meeting between Priest Willis and Roman Dmitri finally took place. Willis quietly looked at the young man everyone was talking about. In his mind swirled unanswered questions. Was this a buried genius, or merely an image painted by skillful deception and illusions? The door opened amid the solemn silence, and a voice announced the arrival of the man everyone in the room had been waiting for. Lord Roman has arrived. Roman entered with a decisive and confident stride. His gaze never wavered, always looking straight ahead yet as if looking down upon the world. That calm face made Priest Willis realize that before him was not someone to be flattered, but a person ready to bear destiny. Roman Dmitri entered with a composed demeanor, his dignified manner leaving no doubt that he was born into power. He smiled and greeted politely but confidently. "Pleased to meet you. I am Roman Dmitri." Without wasting time, the guest asked directly, "Is it true that you defeated Homerus in the duelist tourney?" Roman nodded calmly. "Yes, that is true." The other party's eyes widened in surprise, even showing skepticism that Roman did not fully understand the magnitude of that victory. He emphasized that although Homerus was ranked 49th, having become a level 4 Aura Knight, people expected him to rise further in the rankings. The guest continued to stress Roman's extraordinariness. At 25 years old, he defeated an opponent considered a rising star, something few could achieve at that age, even among veteran knights. Do you understand what that means? His voice deepened, as if to emphasize the scale of the feat. According to him, what Roman did was not just a personal miracle, but proof that he was the most outstanding talent ever discovered in the history of the Cairo kingdom. Roman smiled slightly, his eyes sparkling with confidence. He replied sharply, "I just hear you trying to beat around the bush to say what I did was almost impossible. Please don't do that here." Caught off guard by Roman's sharpness, the other party looked a bit embarrassed but quickly regained composure, requesting to get straight to the point. Before giving an official assessment, he wanted to explain the ranking process of knights in the system. He began by classifying ranked matches into two types, official and unofficial. Official matches must be authorized by the Valhalla Temple and take place before observers. The results of these matches immediately affect rankings, and winners receive certificates confirming their rank. Conversely, if a knight is defeated in an unofficial match, they are removed from the rankings. After 1 year, the entire system shifts, and the winner of that unofficial match cannot replace a position in the current rankings, unless under special conditions. However, he emphasized that if the winner proves their true ability, they can earn a last position in the official rankings. Roman listened attentively, his eyes flashing with interest at this rule. Roman realized if he could prove his strength, he could become ranked 100th. However, he also understood that the Valhalla Temple only trusts what is witnessed firsthand, a strict standard he was ready to surpass. The official took out a special measuring device, Aurasphere. This was the only tool used to verify strength in cases of unofficial match victories instead of through public matches. He explained the simple process. If the measured aura level exceeds the standard, the person is registered at the last position in the rankings. However, unlike official match winners, they do not immediately receive a certificate. The observer warned that the 100th position often becomes a target for hunting, and many who achieve it are quickly removed from the rankings. The system delays confirmation to filter out those truly worthy of long-term existence. Roman squinted, curiously asking why so many people desired to become ranked knights, despite knowing beforehand that it was a dangerous path with no clear rewards. The official replied, his eyes shining behind his glasses. Because of the desire to be known worldwide, fame is what makes knights risk everything, even without material rewards. Roman chuckled softly. In his eyes, that explanation only reinforced his own belief. Isn't fame alone worth the trade? Roman posed a blunt question. If so, why couldn't he defeat a high-ranking knight in an official match to secure a better position from the start? The question left the other party stunned. The official was momentarily embarrassed. In his mind, he thought Roman had underestimated the seriousness of ranked matches. While agreeing it was the best way to prove strength, he emphasized that the process was far from easy. He explained that organizing an official match required many approval steps, especially from the Northeast region, where no ranked knight had ever come from. Holding such a match was nearly impossible. He sighed. Truly unfortunate. The examiner explained the basic rule. When mana is transmitted into the measuring sphere, it changes color according to level. In the blazing red light, red represented level 1, marking the start of classification based on aura power. Orange represented level 2, followed by yellow indicating level 3. If the sphere emitted green light, it meant the tester had surpassed level 4, a proof of superior strength. The assessor reiterated that the subject had defeated a level 4 aura knight. Therefore, to pass the test and be ranked, it was sufficient to make the sphere turn yellow, corresponding to level 3. Roman placed his hand on the device, inwardly comparing this place to the Murim world. The current world possessed advanced magic far beyond what he had known, a factor both novel and worthy of caution. He was surprised to realize that such a simple tool could measure a martial artist's strength. In his mind, he began questioning the nature and true power of the mages in this world. Roman recalled the sorcerers in Murim, wondering if the mages here were supernatural beings who had reached divine realms. Regardless, he acknowledged that magical power was not to be underestimated. With clear determination, Roman declared he would begin the test. He stood by the table, hand on the sphere, ready to verify how mana transmitted by this new method would manifest. He admitted that the mindset between Murim and this world was completely different. With a serious gaze, Roman wondered what would happen if he transmitted mana in the manner accepted here. A test, not merely a measurement. Roman's lips curled slightly as brilliant purple light began to emit. With determination mixed with curiosity and confidence, he whispered briefly, "Let's see," before channeling energy into the device. A fierce purple beam erupted from the sphere. A powerful aura surged throughout the room, causing the space to tremble. Standing at the center of the mana storm, Roman calmly faced the results soon to be revealed to the whole world. A roaring sound echoed, the stone floor shook. Roman stood firm at the epicenter, hands still on the device, as the power continued to flood out like a purple tsunami. The examiner was startled and panicked. Before him was a phenomenon completely beyond reason. No standard could explain the power manifesting through that light. The energy-measuring orb trembled slightly as a hand was placed on its cold surface. A surge of purple mana flowed like a fierce tide, causing the surrounding space to gently shake, a clear sign that an extraordinary power had just been transmitted. A sudden dazzling light burst from the orb, a brilliant red shining through the layers of surrounding mana. The energy measurement had just begun, but its intensity far exceeded the normal level, shaking both the device and those nearby. The judge frowned, squinting at the continuously flickering orb. He muttered uncertainly, "That's red. No, is it orange?" The color changed too quickly for him to accurately determine the initial level. Meanwhile, the light intensity continued to surge. Although the device usually required 5 minutes to accurately identify the mana level, in the blink of an eye, the orb glowed with a bright orange hue, leaving the judge stunned. A dazzling yellow suddenly replaced it, flooding the entire room with light like the sun in the dark night. The judge exclaimed in amazement, "Yell!" a clear indication that the mana level had reached the 3rd tier. But the most surprising was the speed of the change. Even a level 4 Aura Knight could not make the device react so quickly. The judge swallowed hard, sweat beading on his forehead, a mixture of doubt and fear rising within him. Roman calmly observed the reaction, silently confirming in his mind the limits of applying mana in the current world's way. He smiled slightly, his eyes sparkling with a strange purple light. "Now let's try it the Murim way." As soon as he switched to applying internal energy in the Murim style, a powerful wave of energy surged fiercely. His eyes shone brightly, his whole body radiating an extraordinary aura. The energy-measuring orb immediately turned a brilliant blue, symbolizing a level beyond the 4th tier. The blue light swirled, enveloping the device with an unstoppable pressure. A WHIRR sound echoed like a warning as the orb began to shake violently, signaling that the power exceeded its tolerance. Then a chilling crack sound of cracking rang out. Before the judge's stunned eyes, the energy-measuring device split open, unable to withstand the massive mana flow any longer. He exclaimed in horror, "Impossible! The aura-measuring orb has broken." The aura measuring instrument, a tool for measuring mana strength, is the culmination of intelligence and effort from geniuses across the continent. The glowing sphere is the embodiment of the modern magical civilization painstakingly built by humanity. This device can perfectly analyze the mana of a level 6 knight. When energy reaches its limit threshold, it emits a green light, the last color it can display. And even if mana beyond this limit is input, the device will not suffer any damage. Faced with the device's abnormal behavior, a cold voice questioned whether this tool was malfunctioning. The assessor was startled and confused by a possibility he had never encountered throughout his career. His eyes full of hesitation as he admitted this was the first time such a phenomenon had occurred. Although unable to provide an exact answer, he was certain that before breaking, the device emitted green light, confirming Roman as a level 4 knight. The evaluator muttered an unconscious conclusion. Roman Dmitri, theoretically, is a level 4 knight. However, the crack on the device made him unable to remain calm. This was not just an unexpected result, but an abnormal sign far beyond normal standards. The truth was clear. Roman was not only an unrecognized genius, he was a true monster who had reached the pinnacle of power. The aura emanating from him made the assessor step back, shivering in stunned awe. He could not believe it. In the backward land of Dmitri, there existed an individual far beyond all standards, a warrior comparable to the legends of the era. What shocked him even more was Roman's potential to become a level 6 knight, a level so rare that the entire country could count them on one hand. Not only Cairo had the potential to rise, now Roman had officially become a serious candidate. The appearance of Roman Dmitri was like a storm about to sweep across all of Salamander. An old order was on the verge of being broken, and as the dawn of a new generation emerged, all old standards had to collapse. Although he tried hard to remain calm, the assessor could not draw a conclusion immediately. He bowed his head in apology, admitting he could not yet provide a reasonable explanation for the recent incident, and promised to announce the final result as soon as possible. Willis clenched the cracked mana-measuring orb tightly, a resolute determination rising within him. Though the incident was unprecedented, he clearly understood the mission the Empire entrusted to Valhalla Temple in the Kingdom of Cairo. It was not just about measuring strength, but about finding individuals who could change the situation. Turning his back and walking away, Willis said nothing more than a firm goodbye. The calmness in his voice could not hide the chaotic emotions inside, as what he had just witnessed far exceeded all normal patterns. Leaving the room, Willis could not shake the image of Roman Dmitri. He knew that to truly understand this young man's nature, he needed to investigate further. Someone who could shatter an energy-measuring device could not be an ordinary figure. In the quiet space of his office, Willis pondered amid piles of documents. He flipped through Roman Dimitri's files with a tense expression. After the age of 25, this person seemed to have completely transformed into someone else. The change was so great that Willis could not explain it. Turning more pages of notes, Willis recalled Roman's recent feats, defeating Hyatt Nha, declaring war on the Barco clan. He was not only brave but also extremely persistent, gradually turning even the wildest plans into reality. Willis frowned as he realized something even more terrifying. Roman not only possessed extraordinary power, but also had the intelligence to control and effectively utilize that power. A warrior with strategic thinking, a rare and dangerous combination. After completing the device inspection, Willis reached a firm conclusion. The mana measuring orb had no technical faults. The crack appeared simply because it had come into contact with a power too great for any structure to withstand. Willis confirmed that the green light appearing before the device exploded was normal. The abnormality lay in the device being destroyed by an immaterial force beyond its detection capacity. Now, he had no doubt Roman did not belong to ordinary limits. Without hesitation, Willis jumped up and strode away from his desk. His mind held only one thought, an urgent report on Roman Dimitri. This was no longer a simple test result, but a matter of national significance. In a room where crystal light reflected fiercely, Willis officially contacted Valhalla. He introduced himself and without hesitation made a nomination. Roman Dimitri, a warrior surpassing normal standards, worthy to become a new recruit of the Empire. Other nations regarded being listed on Valhalla's ranking as the highest honor. Making it onto this list was not only proof of strength, but also opened many opportunities for advancement and fame, making everyone eager to achieve it. Because of this appeal, although Valhalla Empire was a small nation, it easily recruited countless talented warriors from everywhere. Their ranking system was not just an evaluation tool, but a sophisticated net attracting the martial elite across the continent. Upon receiving the report about Roman Dimitri, a senior member of the Valhalla system immediately assessed him as a potential candidate beyond expectations. He did not hesitate to order Roman's rating to be raised to rank A, while seeking every way to recruit him into the Empire's ranks. That senior member further emphasized the core principle when recruiting talent from other countries: absolute secrecy. For them, ensuring safety and maintaining confidentiality were vital factors in the process of approaching elite warriors from outside. Besides ensuring secrecy, he also demanded that the recruitment process proceed naturally. The goal was not only to enlist Roman, but also to gradually foster his goodwill toward Valhalla, making him a willing contributor to the Empire. Willis, in charge at Valhalla Temple in Cairo, immediately received the directive. He pledged to conceal the truth by declaring that the aura measuring device had malfunctioned, announcing that Roman Dimitri only reached level 3 instead of level 4, ending by placing him unofficially at rank 100 on the leaderboard. Willis clearly understood that just having the name Roman Dimitri appear on the leaderboard would cause a stir in the kingdom of Cairo. With a cunning smile, he knew he had sown the seeds for an unprecedented wave of change. As predicted, the next day, Willis's announcement caused chaos throughout Cairo. All eyes turned to the newly appeared name, Roman Dimitri, regarded as the youngest knight ever to enter Valhalla's prestigious ranking. The news spread at lightning speed, reaching the political and military heart of Cairo, the capital city Kairos. This was no longer an individual story, but a sign that a new power structure was forming. In a high-level office, a senior leader's hands trembled upon receiving the news and immediately verified. "Is it true?" The informant confirmed that Willis had personally gone to Dimitri and confirmed Roman was only a level 3 or a knight. But what shocked more was that Roman had defeated Homrus, an extraordinarily remarkable feat. Although Roman Dimitri's victory was a major shock, not everyone recognized his ability. Some opinions suggested Homrus's defeat was due to carelessness, failing to unleash the full power of a level 4 knight, making the match result difficult to fairly evaluate. Sitting behind an elaborately decorated desk, Marquis Benedict, a powerful figure in the central government, carefully monitored all developments. He thoroughly considered every aspect related to Roman Dimitri's victory and the possible political consequences that might follow. In response to Benedict's question, a subordinate quickly answered that Roman was only 25 years old. This answer made Benedict pay even more attention to the development potential of the young man from the Dimitri outskirts. A level 3 knight at age 25 was not common among the nobility. Benedict, with extensive political experience, realized that Cairo, though a small kingdom, had just birthed a promising individual who could change the balance of power. Benedict frowned and asked further about the reactions of other forces. With a new and outstanding figure like Roman, surely the parties would not stand idly by, especially ambitious empires eyeing opportunities to recruit talent. The answer made Benedict uneasy. Both Kronos and Valhalla were acting extremely quickly. These two powerful empires had begun approaching, clearly unwilling to miss the chance to recruit an outstanding talent like Roman. Unable to hide his anger, Benedict slammed the table and shouted, "Damn those empires!" He believed Roman was a precious asset of Cairo, and the open competition from external forces was an unforgivable insult. Meanwhile, the explanation clearly outlined the current political landscape of the Kingdom of Cairo. The nation was divided into four major factions: the royal faction loyal to the king, the nobility led by Benedict, and two pro-empire factions, one aligned with Kronos, the other with Valhalla. The harsh reality of a small and weak kingdom like Cairo became increasingly clear. Benedict, fully aware of the urgency, ordered action to be taken before other forces could approach Roman. Keeping the young knight who could shift the balance of power within the country was crucial. With cold eyes and hands clenched under his chin, Benedict emphasized, "Absolutely do not let the royal faction touch Roman Dimitri." To him, allowing the king to gain the upper hand was unacceptable in the covert struggle between factions. The Kingdom of Cairo lies between two great powers. To the west is the mighty Kronos Empire, and to the south borders the Kingdom of Hector. This strategic position made Cairo a constant hotspot in regional conflicts. Kronos was not only an empire founded by the legendary Emperor Alexander, but also possessed the continent's greatest mountain range. With expansionist ambitions, Kronos repeatedly demanded Cairo's submission as a vassal and continuously invaded its borders for many years. On the bloody battlefield, waves of Cairo's knights fell before the overwhelming strength of Kronos' army. Not only facing external threats, Cairo was also eroded from within as traitors secretly regarded Kronos as an ideal homeland. Amidst piles of corpses and spilled blood, curses erupted in despair. A surviving Cairo warrior voiced his hatred, cursing the cruel imperialism that trampled on their ideals and lives. In the desolate scene, two young officers silently stood watching the bodies of their comrades. One bitterly exclaimed, "These warriors had fallen for their country, yet they would not receive a proper funeral." The other officer was Rodwell Dimitri, the second son of the Dimitri family. When asked about his feelings toward the tragic scene, he responded calmly. This was not the first time he had witnessed death, nor would it be the last. The young comrade beside him could not hide his confusion. He confessed his fear and disappointment upon facing real war for the first time. He had considered quitting the academy and returning home because the battlefield was far more brutal than he had imagined. In a solemn and sorrowful moment, a torch was lit and dropped among the corpses. The flame burned not only to bid farewell to fallen comrades' souls, but also symbolized the long-suppressed helplessness and rage. Rodwell stared coldly at the fire consuming the bodies. Deep inside, he understood clearly this was the cruel fate of a weak nation, always eyed by foreign powers. Peace had never lasted long on Cairo's western border. In the gloomy atmosphere, the comrade turned to Rodwell with surprising news. Roman Dimitri, once a notorious older brother, had officially enlisted. This information caused a flicker of emotion in Rodwell's gaze. Upon hearing that Roman Dimitri had become a level 3 or a knight, Rodwell clenched his fists in confusion and anger. Although this news had spread everywhere, he still could not accept such a possibility. Memories of a weak and inadequate Roman, once a family disgrace, lingered in his mind. Rodwell rejected that information as blatant lies. He believed that, by whatever means, the Dimitri family had concealed the truth to polish Roman's reputation, a person he thought was not even capable of self-defense, let alone becoming a true knight. Looking at the fiercely burning fire ahead, Rodwell whispered a cold prediction. He believed that sooner or later the truth would be revealed, and the glamorous facade would collapse to expose the real Roman he once knew. In a calmer setting at the Dimitri mansion, a servant entered to announce that Roman had a visitor. Roman, resting at the time, frowned slightly at the unexpected event, wondering who would come to see him now. In the formal reception room, a middle-aged man was led in to meet Roman. After signaling everyone to leave, he immediately got to the main point, revealing himself as an envoy from the Cairo royal family, carrying a message of utmost importance from the king. With a mysterious smile, the envoy declared the reason for his visit. He was officially tasked with conferring upon Roman Dimitri the title of Royal Knight of the Kingdom of Cairo, a noble honor no one had ever thought Roman would achieve. While the declaration still echoed in the air, the major political forces in Cairo began to stir into action. Each faction saw the enormous potential in Roman's rise and did not want to be left behind in the new power race. From the conservative nobility to scheming figures, all quietly sought ways to approach or control Roman. A seasoned and powerful force observed all movements from the shadows, understanding that the times were rapidly changing. And at the center of this political storm was Roman Dmitri, once despised, now a monster that every power wanted to possess. A meaningful smile appeared on his face, as if fully aware of the path of power awaiting him.